Hello everybody and welcome to the patch rundown for the anniversary update for Risk of Rain 2. I've played this update for about 6 hours and I did that so I can better give you context as to what all the changes actually do. Also, I'm not going to read everything word for word. I'll leave a link in the description below of the patch notes if you would like to see all of the changes. So the first one, they added a morgue and an account stats page. I'll put up a picture of both right now. Pretty cool. Now you have detailed breakdowns of what you do in your runs. I'll have a video out a little later today talking about the bandit, just a general overview, as well as all of the other changes to the survivors. There are 5 new items in total, 2 of which complete the Heresy set, the Hooks of Heresy and the Essence of Heresy. The Hooks of Heresy replace your secondary ability and add this little sphere that you can charge up and shoot out. And the sphere does damage over time. I believe it's 150% per second. And then the sphere will explode after a short duration and do like 700% damage. It is a very, very, very strong ability. I have loved every second using it. And then the Essence of Heresy replaces your special ability. It adds a stackable debuff to an enemy whenever you hit them with damage that has proc coefficient, meaning your burns and your bleeds will not stack this item, but pretty much everything else will. And you can choose to detonate this debuff and deal, I think it's 100%, 120% damage per stack of the debuff. So if you're just commando and you're wailing on a boss with a ton of attack speed, pew, 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 the attack itself is not going to do a lot of damage, but you will continue stacking this ability up here, and then you can proc it for a massive nuke. That's the whole point of the ability. Very cool. There's also a secret if you gather all 4 of the Lunar Heresy item. The Empathy Cores, this is the Soulless Control Unit boss item. I have not gotten this. I don't know what it does. The Charged Perforator is the Overloading Worm boss item. I also have not gotten this. The Planula, however, I have gotten. It's the Grandparent boss item. And this one heals you for a flat amount after you take damage. The new skill variants here, I actually haven't played with any of them, so I don't know what they do. Again, I'll have a video out in the very near future covering all these changes in detail. The Lunar Chimera Exploder is like a little roly-poly guy. They are very, very small. They shoot a little bit of laser beams, and when you kill them, they leave a massive pool of damage over time. And I believe that pool is based on your maximum health, not just a flat amount. So the more HP you have, the more damage you take. Basically, when you kill them, just walk away. It's kind of like a Void Reaver. The new elite is Perfected. I don't quite know what they do, but I've killed quite a few of them. They have full shields, number 1, so it's kind of like they have Transcendence, not an overloading elite where there's only half a shields. They have full shields, and I think they just do more damage. I'm not quite sure on that. There has to be some other special gimmick to them, but I know they have full shields. That's about it. The Grandparent boss is... You'll know when you fight a Grandparent, okay? It is super noticeable. They're very cool. The Lunar Shop Refresher is exactly what it says. When you enter the blue portal, you can now reroll the lunar items and equipment available to you. Note that it only rerolls the stuff you have not taken already. So there's 5 items total. If you buy 2 of them, there are 3 left. You can then reroll those 3 items. It won't add 2 more back into it. And the price of the reroll doubles every time you use it. Starts at 1 coin, then it goes to 2, 4, 8, etc. So it gets very expensive. New challenges, blah, blah, blah. 93 lore entries if you're a lore fiend. There you go. And then here's the juicy stuff, the gameplay changes. This first one right here, look at this. Final stage has been redone entirely. They said they won't spoil it, but I'm going to spoil it. So a video will come out later today talking about exactly what this is. But long story short, the final stage, as they said, is redone entirely. It is completely different. The Mithrix fight still exists, and it's still the same exact fight, except the last phase is a little easier. I'm sure I'll cover that here in a second. But my gosh, it is a completely different experience, and it is way harder too. It is way hard. Low health threshold, I actually don't really know what this does. I'm sure there are items that say something happens when you have low health. I'm super tired. I'm exhausted. I can't think of them right now. But there you go for that. AI now have dramatically improved pathfinding. That is a 100% true statement. They are way better, which you now would say, okay, drones are really good now. Yes, but they are no longer resistant to AoE attacks. They used to have like a 70% reduction to AoE. Maybe it was like 80%. It was ridiculously high. But to compensate for that, they now teleport to you if they're too far away. So it's like a maximum tether distance. So it'll just boop, teleport back on you if they go too far. And they scale based on the level of the run. I'll put up a picture here. There's now an indicator right under your stage count in a run, the level of both your allies and enemies. Nothing's changed in terms of game balance. There's an indicator there, which is pretty cool. Here's some more juicy changes. The commando, double tap. If you want to single fire it, you can, just for a little more accuracy. You can still hold down the trigger. It still shoots just as fast. In fact, it shoots even faster. This duration here is the amount of time between shots. It went from 0.2 seconds to 0.15. That is a 25% increase to Commando's base attack speed, which then translates to just 25% more attack speed in general. And on top of that, he now deals 100% damage per shot instead of 90. And on top of that, it'll be easier to hit stuff with a faster recovery time on your bloom. And Phase Round, the default secondary ability, now deals 40% more damage every time it pierces. So I guess if you're fighting a Beetle Queen or you just have a ton of enemies around in front of you and a tanky target, you can shoot the shot through and just boop, 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 boop. There's like a huge amount of damage. You're probably still going to want to use Phase Blast though. Huntress now is unlocked by default. So when you start up Risk of Rain 2 as a brand new player, you now get Commando and Huntress at the same time. And her unlock requirement now goes to the Bandit. So complete the third teleporter to get the Bandit. Engineer's got some random changes, not really a big deal. Artificer, the only change is that your bomb will no longer proc your bands unless it's a direct explosion, kind of like the Prey on Accumulator, where the tendrils will proc the bands because it does so much damage. They didn't want that for Artificer, so they changed it. Still does exactly the same damage though. Mercenary now has a 0.2 second iframe on his shift, which is really good. Bustling Fungus now has the Bustling Fungus, that's right, the Bungus was buffed to now proc 50% faster, meaning you only have to stand still for 1 second instead of 2. And the overall healing is the same, but it's just a little faster, it's more smooth. The energy drink, this is actually a pretty useful piece of information. So the first stack of energy drink will give you slightly less movement speed, but as you get more stacks, you'll get more movement speed out of them. And this now makes the energy drink more efficient to stack than the Goat Hoof for just pure movement speed. The Focus Crystal got a pretty big buff from 15 to 20% damage per stack. The Focus Crystal here got a nice juicy 33% buff from 15 to 20% damage per stack. Now has an easily distinguishable radius, so it's a big red circle around you, kind of like a Frost Relic, and it is very, very obvious when you are getting the damage bonus from it because your damage numbers change entirely in color. It feels really good, especially with the new and improved Frost Relic, which we'll cover in a second. The Rusted Key was completely revamped. Now, every time you open the lockbox, it consumes one of your keys. You can only open one box per stage. That has not changed. But instead of you stacking more keys to get a chance at a rarer item, it now gives you the same loot, the lockbox, as a large chest. So that's an 80% chance for a green item and a 20% chance for a red item, no matter how many key stacks you have. You open up the lockbox, it's a large chest for free. And it's also slightly easier to find. It subtly glows and pulses. Crowbar also received a pretty big buff from 50 to 75% damage. There's a 50% increase to its value. I've played a little bit with the crowbars. They seem pretty good, but I'll have to do a lot more testing and just wait for the item and equipment tier list for my actual opinions on this. The gasoline now has an explosion in addition to its usual damage over time, kind of like a light version of the Will of the Wisp. This explosion deals the same damage as the entirety of the gasoline damage over time, so 150%. Bison Steak, this replaces the fresh meat, just gives you 25 flat HP per stack. The tri-tip was nerfed from 15 to 10% per stack, which is fair. It's still going to be a really good item. The Left on Daisy now procs in every zone that is a chargeable zone, a holdout zone as they call it. Stealth Kit now procs based on a threshold of your HP instead of just being a random chance. And there's a cooldown to its activation, wherein previously there was none. And this is what that low health threshold change was for. So whenever you reach 25% HP, the Stealth Kit will proc, assuming it's not on cooldown. Bandolier packs now restore all charges of your abilities, which is really good. So anything that has a charge-based system, including backup magazines, it'll give you all of your charges right away. Really cool. The radar scanner actually got a buff. It now tells you if it's a barrel, a chest, a drone, a shrine, or something unknown. So it's slightly better than it was before, but not by much. The Frost Relic. Okay, I got this one a couple times. This actually feels really good. They doubled the proc coefficient of the item, so it went from 1.5 to 3.0 proc coefficient, and they doubled the radius. So it is much easier to actually damage things, and as you kill stuff, it'll just keep growing and growing in size. Frost Relic feels really good now, like really, really good. Head Stomper, I haven't gotten it yet, but it calculates the damage based on the distance traveled, not the speed. So the higher up, the more damage it deals. The Resonance Disc apparently now fires more consistently, which I actually did get it a couple times today, but I couldn't really tell a big difference. The Defiant Gouge, which is the lunar item that gives you a combat shrine every time you interact with any shrine. It gives you less monsters now because it was pretty OP in the early game, and then it fell off really hard because it just spawned way too many things. So this is a pretty reasonable balance, I would say. Focus Convergence, same thing as Left on Daisy. The Halcyon Seed I have not received, but apparently Aurelia Knight will focus on harder targets more, which is cool. The Mired Urn no longer affects your allies, so Engineer mains can rejoice, and our Beetle buddies will no longer take damage. Hermit Crabs no longer fire 3 shots. Instead, they shoot 1, and it deals the total damage that they dealt before. Basically, they are much more dangerous, but a little easier to dodge because instead of all those huge pellets coming down, there's only 1 shot. But my gosh, it does a lot of freaking damage. Parents also got Omega nerfed here. Way less base and scaling HP, and they slimmed them down a little bit. They look like the Risk of Rain ones. Greater Wisps can now be stunned and frozen. Really cool. They also have a new spawn animation. They didn't put that in here. The Lunar Chimera Golems. These guys are insanely scary. Honestly, the Golems, which are the guys that sit on the ground and they shoot the missiles. Pew! Yeah, they don't do that anymore. They shoot a whole barrage of missiles at you. They do a lot of damage, and they shoot more frequently. Like, the Golems are really scary now. To compensate, they have slightly less HP. But my gosh, I would say the Golems are more scary than the Wisps now. It is insane. And speaking of Wisps, they slightly nerfed the speed of the bomb. which is cool. The Beetle Queen now summons Beetle Guards instead of regular beetles. The Scavengers can now come as elite types. The Void Reavers won't stack their shots on you as they did before. And the final phase of Mithrix, where he steals all your items, is significantly easier. He has a little bit more HP, but the items that you get back are based on the percentage of his health. So if he's at 50% HP, you have 50% of your items back, which makes the fight so much easier. Before, it was a mixture of the damage you dealt, the number of times you hit him, and the proc coefficient of the hit. There was a whole bunch of stuff going on with it. Now it's very simple. It's a threshold. So if you get him at 50% HP, you have half of your items back. Really cool. This is actually a pretty important change here too. Sky Meadows, the initial spawns have been reduced by a quarter. So we have roughly 1/4 less monsters to fight when you initially get there, which I don't know about you guys, but I always felt overwhelmed on Sky Meadow unless I had a really crazy run going. So that's a good change. And that's pretty much it. The rest of the stuff is just quality of life and bug fixes. So if I had to summarize this update in one sentence, I would say this is the true 1.0 update. I just cannot tell you how good it feels to play on this patch. I know it's only been 6 hours. Maybe I'll have a different opinion after 106 hours, but probably not. This update is crazy. And again, I'll have a couple videos out later today detailing more of the stuff that I covered, such as the new survivor abilities, the new survivor in general, and there's a secret. Anyway, what do you guys think about the patch? Leave a comment below. Tell me your favorite thing. Are you loving the bandit? Are you loving the secret that I talked about? How about the Mithrix changes? Whatever it may be, leave a comment below and a like or dislike on the video if you enjoyed it. You can check out my stream at twitch.tv/Woolie Gaming, where I will be streaming the crap out of this update. You better believe it. So you can follow me there if you want to. Also consider joining our Discord if you want. Anyway, I got some more videos to make, so I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.